Welcome again. Now we continue study Unit 1, Laboratory Technique. Now I would like to introduce you about the apparatus for measuring chemical. There are two types of them, volumetric type and radiated type. The volumetric type include the volumetric pipette and volumetric flask. And now we watch a video showing how.
The first thing we're going to talk about today is how to use a pipette to dispense a precise volume. This is actually a 10 ml pipette. It'll be printed somewhere on it. To use a pipette, you don't suck with your mouth like a straw. You use a pipette bulb. They may be blue, they may be red. These are equivalent. Inside the neck of the pipette bulb is a cone of squashy rubber. That's what actually forms the seal. So when you want the seal, you push up with your pipette holding hand and you get a decent seal here. I'm going to be dispensing this green liquid into this empty container, 10 mils of it. The first thing to do is to actually wash the pipette with whatever this liquid is, because who knows what's in there right now. Flatten the pipette bulb and apply suction to get some liquid inside. That's all you need to do. Now invert this, and by releasing the pressure on the top, I can let the liquid all the way up above the calibration mark, rotate the pipette so that everything gets wet with the liquid, and then dispense it. And I can squeeze that out into a waste container. It's a good idea to have a beaker just to put waste in, rather than trotting back and forth to the sink all the time. We're now ready to dispense 10 mils into this flask. Flatten the pipette again, and this time apply suction until the liquid in the pipette is above the calibration mark. It will move a lot faster when it's in the neck rather than in the bulb. Once it's well above that line, remove the bulb and capture it with your index finger. Use your index finger, not your thumb. And the calibration is actually a line, a circle around the neck of the bulb. Hold it so that it is level with your eye, so that you are seeing a line and not a ring. And by releasing pressure with your finger, you get the top of the meniscus down to the line. That's now ready to go. If there's a drip on the tip, touch it to the dispensing vessel, place it over the receiving vessel, and allow to flow out. Do not squeeze it out at this point. You need to be patient and let gravity do its thing. This is now dispensing 10.00 mils, or an aliquot of 10 mils. And once the flow has stopped, you count 10. 1 hippopotamus, 2 hippopotamus, 3 steamboat, 4 steamboat, 5 Mississauga, 6 Mississauga, however you wish to do it. There may well be a drip hanging on the end, so you touch the tip of the pipette to the liquid in the receiving vessel to break the surface tension and bring it out. Now you may notice I'm holding it up against my arm for color contrast. There is some liquid still in the tip of the pipette. Do not blow that out. The pipette is calibrated to retain that little driplet of water. In the technique that I've just used, I have now dispensed 10.00 mils. That's exactly 10 mils of, it's actually bromocresol green liquid, into this flask.
A volumetric flask.
This is a 100 ml volumetric flask, and we'll show you now how to use volumetric flasks themselves. The first thing you should do is wash it to make sure that you have it clean. If it looks reasonably clean, just a rinse of distilled water is usually enough, again into my waste beaker here. It doesn't have to be dry because you're going to be adding distilled water to it anyway, so the small amount of liquid there is irrelevant. Here I'm going to dispense 10 mils of a liquid into that flask. There we are. Okay. And again, we allow this to dispense directly into the volumetric flask this time. And resist the temptation to use the bulb to speed the process up. Once it has stopped, and you've counted 10, touch the tip of the pipette to release it, and away we go. Now at this point, use your distilled water bottle to wash down the sides, and we'll be adding. Now there is no point in squeezing 100 mils out there, so if you want to be quicker about it, just open the neck of your distilled water bottle and pour in until it's about 2/3 full, like this. Now at this point, take the container and put the cap on. Notice that I'm holding the cap on with my fingers, and invert several times. Let the bubble do the work. You're not playing the maracas here. Just allow the bubble to stir it so that you've now got a uniform solution behind. Take the liquid off and add water until you're almost at the calibration line. Now, the calibration line is actually where my finger is, so we'll get it fairly close fairly quickly. Now that we're almost at the top, instead of using the squeeze bottle, which is not actually all that easy to contain, use a dropper. And I'm going to get my head down so that I'm seeing the line of the volumetric calibration rather than as a circle. So do this at eye level. Add it dropwise until the bottom of the meniscus is tangential to the line. If you want to, you can use a burette reader card to make that a little more obvious. I think I've got about one more drop to go here. There we go, and 2 drops. The meniscus tangential to the calibration line. Now that I've got it actually at the line, again, put the cap on, hold it with my hand, and invert several times to make sure that I've got a uniform solution. And this is now a 100.00 mil solution of 10 mils of my initial liquid. The second way of using a volumetric flask is to dissolve a known amount of solid. Now here I've got a previously weighed amount of solid, and we dispense this carefully into the volumetric flask itself. Make sure that everything comes off, and again use your squeeze bottle to wash everything down inside. If you used a funnel to get this in, use the wash bottle to rinse the funnel to make sure that everything has gone inside. And again, there's no point in trying to squeeze out 100 mils, so we'll pour 2/3 of this full. Add the cap, and again hold it on with my fingers and invert, and look to make sure that I've got all of the solid dissolved. And you may want to swirl it this way as well. Now, for the demonstration, I think I chose something that would dissolve quickly. Here is the calibration line. I think you can see it a little more clearly in this example. And so let's add enough water to get it close to the calibration line, excuse me. And for the last little bit, again, I'll be using a dropper and getting my eyes down to the level of the calibration line, which is right here. I'll hold this card in so that you can see it perhaps a little better with higher contrast. quite enough. A couple more drops. And there we have the bottom of the meniscus tangential to the calibration line. We've now got exactly 100 mils in here. Again, put the cap on and invert a few times to let the bubble do the stirring so that we've got a uniform solution. Now,